let's start with your story. So postpartum,
third tricky pregnancy, which led to a MRSA infection in the hospital. It was a nice going away present. And, luckily, thank God for science, my life was saved because I took really strong antibiotics. And the antibiotics were great because, again, they saved my life, but they totally knocked out my system. And I had no idea. I went home, I was on antibiotics for 3 months, was caught in the hustle of managing a home, 3 kids, work, all of it. And I just chalked some of the symptoms up to postpartum brain fog, fatigue, bloating. And then about 3 to 6 months post the antibiotics, I realized that the symptoms were not going away. And I developed this crazy rash on my face, which led me to dermatologists, to GI doctors, to you name the expert, I went to them. And it was probably after my 8th GI doctor that told me it was all in my head and that I'm insane and I should just, go on an antidepressant, which infuriated me and made me determined to figure out what was wrong. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, I went to my facialist who looked at me, and also a friend, and said, this is not topical. You're not doing anything wrong. This is not an allergy. Something's going on inside of your body. And she sent me to Dr. Frank Lippman in New York. Do you know him?
I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. He now runs or is part of the Well. Mm-hmm. Do you know it? The Wellness Center?
I've done events there.
Great. So I went to Frank, and he took one look at me, at my eyes and my tongue, and said, Krystyna, you have SIBO. I would guarantee, I'd put my medical license on it. I can guarantee you have it. Go get tested for, good measure. And of course I did. I went to my GP. I got tested, and he looked at me dumbfounded and, felt quite foolish because I was complaining to him for 2 years. But thank goodness he sent me to Dr. Mark Pimentel and Ali Rezai at Cedars, which started this whole journey.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So typical story, symptoms being ignored. We hear this all the time from women. It takes about 7 years to get diagnosed with SIBO. And I just found that to be completely ridiculous. I luckily had the resources to keep investigating and looking for answers. But I think, doctor number 3, I started to give up. Mm-hmm. You keep being told that you're insane and that it's just postpartum. Part of your brain starts to believe it. But once I met Dr. Rezai, I asked him what would he prescribe his wife or his mother or his sister. And he looked at me and he said, well, I would prescribe an elemental diet because it's been proven to be the most effective on the market, but you're not going to be able to tolerate it. And I looked at him and asked why. And he simply said the taste. We can't get patients to comply with this protocol. And I convinced him to let me give it a shot. And he laughed at me and said, you're never going to do it. You're going to be on antibiotics in a week, which is the other option. And given that antibiotics gave me this disorder, and knowing nothing about science at the time, just intuitively, I could not agree with that path. I'm like, if antibiotics gave me this disorder, how can antibiotics fix this? I just was not having it.
That's genius, by the way. Thank you for critical thinking.
But yeah, now in retrospect, knowing a little bit more, I imagine and I know that lots of patients do benefit from some antibiotics, right? So it's not all bad, but in this case, something in my gut told me, no, you don't want to go down this path. And I tried the elemental diet, which was truly the most horrific thing and experience I've ever been through. And I've had 3 C-sections, this was far worse. I would take a C-section over drinking this formula any day. It was 2 weeks of hell, truly hell. I remember my husband mixing up a drink for me, a competitor's drink, and he threw up just smelling it.
Oh my God.
I mean, you tried it. I made you try it.
And this was the only option at the time.
This was the only option, or antibiotics.
Right.
Now, it took several tries of this elemental diet. I think I took it 3 times over the course of a year or 18 months, and I got rid of it. I then followed up with low fermentation eating, which the cookbook is based on, for 6 months post the elemental diets. And I've been SIBO free now for, oh my gosh, 7 years,
Wow.
7, 8 years. Now, who knows? I've been a guinea pig and drinking, mBIOTA elementals. So if I did have anything, it really is gone. It's been a wild, wild journey. We wrote the book because I wanted to help women, figure out what was going on and make their lives easier. When you're given a digestive disorder diagnosis, you're usually just given a handout with foods that you can avoid and should focus on. And that's it. There is no comprehensive conversation with a nutritionist. It's not even discussed. So I took this very rudimentary list that Dr. Mark Pimentel was working on for the last 20 years and started tinkering with recipes. I love to cook. And I don't know, the first month I was cooking multiple meals. I had small kids. I was doing a kid meal, I was doing my meal, and I was doing my husband's meal. And I was like a short order cook.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, how can I take this list and create family-friendly recipes that everybody can enjoy and also that my guests would love? Because I host a lot.
Yeah.
I've always hosted a lot. I love to cook and host dinner parties. So I took the list, started tinkering and using my friends as guinea pigs and came up with the cookbook. So the recipes in the book are easy to follow. Nothing's complicated. And the intention was really to save women time.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.